No, I have a double life. I have 2 kids, so it's a kind of like a split personality kind of vibe. You know, one night I'm jumping around on stage, next minute I'm in a park, you know, or going to the school or something like that. Yeah, I mean, playing live is certainly addictive, I think, you know, certainly with our kind of music, where it's kind of just a complete unleashing, you know what I mean? It's about, that's what I love about it, because you spend so long in a van, and then the payoff at the end of the day is just to go mental, you know.
It's kind of beautiful, actually. People have a couple of kids and they complain that they never get to go out and have fun, and this is your job.
Yeah,
you get to be debaucherous in front of a crowd of people.
I know. It is good, yeah. And I get to travel the world and look at all the cool neighbourhoods and get my Super 8 camera out and do filming and stuff. So I never refer to it as a tour. I always call it a holiday.
Yeah. You must have slowed down a little bit when the kids came.
Oh, yeah. I mean, back in the day, we used to be away for months on end. This is like the most we've toured for years. This is, you know, and this is 2 weeks. So it's doable. You know, most of the time I'm around much more than other dads, you know what I mean? So it's not a problem, I don't think, at the minute.
Is 2 weeks, is that kind of the sweet spot right now?
I can certainly see as the tour's going on, we're kind of getting better as a band.
Yeah.
And it's feeling more natural, and it's just like, this is what we are now. You always have, particularly with the Go team, we always have a few wobbly gigs, and then we kind of get in the zone, you know.
It's that thing of just sort of starting to hit your stride at this point as you're packing it up.
Yeah, it's a bit of that going on. Yeah, I mean, we were supposed to keep going down to Philly and Atlanta and Florida and all that kind of stuff, but people have jobs in the band now, so it's kind of pretty tricky to balance everything.
There was no notion, though, that when the kids came along, that it'd be kind of time to settle down and get, like, I guess, a real job?
I don't think so. Not from my point of view. You know, I can still sort of survive off the Go team amazingly after all these years, however long it's been, 14 maybe, 15 years. It's amazing, really. And I never thought of it as a job. I still don't. It's just delaying getting a job for me, you know.
It seems like everyone kind of more or less works toward your schedule. I mean, you're the one who sits down, and you're the one who collects all the music, and then when it's time to, you know, send up the bat signal, you're the guy who gets everybody in order.
Yeah, and I'm kind of a slow worker as well. I will spend months on end listening to hundreds and hundreds of songs, and I don't quite know where it's all going to end, but I hoard stuff, and I think that's the thing I've got going for me more than... I'm not a shredder. I can't play guitar particularly well, but I'm persistent and I can clock a good melody, so I'm the one that will keep going and going and going and going and going and going until I've got what I think is a good song, you know.
You're a good editor. You're a collector. You know where things are as you're writing them down and keeping them. Do you have a good system?
I mean, all that kind of geeky stuff. I mean, I think my thing is aesthetics, I think, really. You know, thinking about what the band is and thinking in visual terms. You know, it's that old kind of Chain and the Gang idea, you know, that band.
Of course.
Who kind of, you know, would say, start the band with a band photo. That's the first thing you do. You don't write a song, you get the band photo done. So I'm not as shallow in that way, but I'm certainly aesthetically driven. You know, I'm a great believer in bands not just picking up a guitar and just knocking out a song. You have to kind of get an angle. You have to what's your worldview, what's your everything, what are you into, what films are you into, what colours, what fonts, you know. So it's everything that's kind of this kind of coherent idea of what a band is for me, you know. That's what I'm into, the kind of who are you idea, you know.
Years ago I interviewed Wayne Coyne from the Flaming Lips, and
he's an aesthetics man all the way.
And we discussed, you know, gimmicks, because, you know, people think of gimmick as being kind of a dirty word, but for him it's sort of it's a hook. I mean, it's a way to bring people in. Yeah,
I mean, he's similar. He can't play guitar particularly, but he's the ideas man, isn't he? So I kind of like ideas bands, you know, and you know them. They are super furry animals. They're Flaming Lips. They're Beasties. They are Becks, maybe one of them. You know, people who just sort of think beyond more than just picking up a guitar. I think, you know, White Stripes were one. Things like that. You know, I like not just another band type thing, leaving your mark, all those sort of stuff, you know.
I work in tech during the day. In the world of startups, they call it the elevator pitch. Are you familiar with that concept?
I can imagine what it is.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, it's the length of an elevator. You
give me one sentence about it. Yeah. I mean, I'm pleased. I think that the Go team is quite instantly recognisable when a song comes on. I think you could probably clock who it was pretty sharpish, you know. So, and you, if you describe something as Go teamy, people would probably know vaguely what that meant, you know. So I kind of if nothing else, I'm pleased about that, and I'm pleased that we're still here, after all this time,
Did it come into the world fully formed? I mean, you feel like right out of the gate you knew exactly what you wanted it to be?
I guess so. I mean, the first song that I thought was Go Teamy was Get It Together, what people now think of as the Little Big Planet theme. Yeah, that was a song which was fucked up enough. It was Jackson 5, 1 minute, it had a bit of Sonic Youth in there, it had sort of electro, even country, so it was kind of, I thought, okay, that's it, that's kind of what I could happily call Go Teamy, that idea of ramming together all these disparate things, but it has this sort of technicolor but fucked up kind of quality to it, so I guess that was, and we still play that song, so in that way I always thought of it simultaneously. I'm always pulled in lots of different directions, but I'm kind of into bubblegum and noise at the same time, and I imagine kind of technicolor things but a bit trippy and a bit wrong and distortion, things like that, female blaring stuff, ramming together different worlds. And for me it's almost utopian in a way, because it's not about my life particularly, it's not about my day-to-day life where I'm going down the street high-fiving people, It's almost how I want the world to be, or how I wish my life was, and I'm almost trying to do it justice in a way. I'm trying to kind of crack it almost, kind of reach this unattainable, or do it justice, that kind of idea. And the utopian thing is kind of about the idea of, being into sort of Deerhoof at the same time as the Jackson 5 and Bollywood, and seeing no kind of, just no boundary between any of that stuff. And I guess in a political kind of a way, in a sort of subconscious kind of a way, as soon as you kind of articulate it, it becomes quite sort of Miss Worldy and a bit cheesy. Do you know what I mean? Hey, can't we all get on?
It becomes a communist manifesto pretty quickly.
It's a balancing act. So I kind of try not to articulate it, but it's just a sort of a feeling I have. You know what I mean? It's I kind of think of it as the good things in life, really, in the most sort of sincere way, but I get it that people think it sort of delves into being cutesy sometimes, and I can kind of get that. So I'm kind of trying to pull it back. I'm aware of that. It's quite sincere for me, though. There's nothing ironic or cheesy or pop gimmicky or any of that kind of stuff. It's quite a sincere thing for me,
When you include a marching band, though, do you feel like you're kind of falling into that trap of maybe being a little cheeky or a little goofy?
I don't mind cheekiness. I think it's personality. I think I'm trying to get personality, but in a genuinely cool kind of a way. For instance, on the song Semicircle song, when the kids go down the line and say, "Hi, I'm
their star signs.
I'm Shannon and I'm an Aquarius." I think some people might think that's cheesy. I think it's fucking cool, So it's like what it's like take your side. You know what I mean? I'm imagining things like Soul Train, just wrongness and rightness all together. That's kind of where I'm at.
It's interesting though, getting back to the idea of utopia. That's how people consume music now, right? I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. That the goods and the bads of the Spotify, for example, you've got all the music in the world at your fingertips, but the inverse of it is you're being offered it up with absolutely no context whatsoever. It makes discovery hard. It makes sort of properly understanding the music difficult at the same time. But there is this opportunity to really just have no prejudice or preconceived notions about music.
I love the idea of curating your life almost. So everyone's a curator these days, aren't they? You can cherry pick all the best food, the best TV shows. Everything's just there for you, and half the battle is just kind of wading through the shit, isn't it? So I kind of like the idea that you can kind of cut out the shit things in the world, even more so now. But the flip side to that is that they have you by the bollocks because they know everything about you. You know what I mean? So there's no... I think I like the idea of cherry picking the good stuff. Do you know what I mean? And there being no excuse to wade through shit that's wasting your time. I think you just get to the good stuff. But like you say, I think when we started, the idea of being into everything was a bit rarer. I think there was something a bit more unusual about kind of slamming things together. But everyone, I think people aren't so snobby about pop music these days, are they? I think an indie kid would name drop Gaga or something without skipping a beat. There wouldn't be that. tribal thing that we used to have. But for me, the go-to's always been about particular things. You know, you don't just say you're into funk, because funk can be the worst and the best music ever made. You know what I mean? You know, are you into the Meters, or are you into Level 42? So it's quite particular. And soul as well. Soul can be really bad, or it can be the best thing you've ever heard in your life. Yeah, it's quite particular. It's not just saying I'm into you know, I like soul. It's saying I like this sort of thing, you know.
Funk or soul are difficult from the standpoint of the idea of authenticity. It's a hard thing to bring to the table, you know, especially with music like that. It doesn't seem to be something that you are particularly concerned with or shy away from, however.
I mean, it's a funny one. I mean, authenticity normally means things like production and sometimes it does anyway. Those are sort of shortcuts, aren't they, for, you know, the snare drum sound, using warm mics, things like that, putting it onto tape and stuff like that. And it also is a sort of, it's kind of trying to replicate the past, isn't it, when you say authenticity, really? I don't know, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I've always thought it's a bit of a mirage, the concept of authenticity, and it's something which people sort of stage manage. Often it's a brand almost. So Kurt Cobain was a master of giving the illusion of authenticity when really he wanted to be a superstar, probably. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of a bit of a mirage, this concept of authenticity.
Some people get away with it. He got away with it.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a PR exercise, the concept of authenticity, for me, a little bit. It's kind of whatever you decide it is, really. If you know, it's a personal thing, really. I don't quite know what it means, really, because I've never literally tried to make the go-to about my life, you know, in a, hey, listen to my story or anything like that. It's much more second-hand, so it's almost like I'm invisible in some respects in the process, you know, that you wouldn't guess that I'd written these songs, maybe, but at the same time I'm all over it as well, so I'm invisible, but I'm all over it at the same time. It's a funny thing, you know.
I mean, it really is a form of escapism for you in just about every way.
Yeah, except even that. Even the concept of escapism is a dangerous word in 2018, you know, particularly. So I'm aware I don't want it to appear like I'm saying, forget about Trump and all the bullshit that's going on, let's party. You know, I don't want that to be the message.
I mean, that's a good message for a night or two.
Exactly. Well,
a couple of hours.
Yeah,
the length of one of your shows.
I don't want it to be apolitical and this kind of hey, you know, forget that shit. You know, there is an element of that. For me, it's about kind of turning off. For me, I think of it more as not letting them get you down, almost. You know, not letting them have the pleasure of defining the time we're living in, where you have to write about the headlines or things like that. So it's more about making our own reality, our own definition of what 2018 means, rather than letting them get in your face where you can't think about anything else. You know what I mean? You
have to compartmentalize just to survive.
Exactly.
There's so many horrible things happening in the world at any one time.
It's almost, that's the challenge of our time, is splitting your brain. So 1 minute you're all over the news, you know exactly what's going on, then the next minute you're saying fuck them lot, let's get on with our own thing over here, which they can't touch us, and almost saying like there's good things in the world still that can't be reached by those motherfuckers, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like that idea, really, that there's still lots going on and kind of getting it in context in a way, I suppose, you know.
With Trump, with Brexit, with all these things happening, do you channel that into your music? Is that something that you feel the need to address?
Not in a literal way. I don't think I would write literally a Trump song or anything. Yeah. I mean, there's a song called Getting Back Up on the album, which kind of alludes to the idea of community and things like that, you know, kind of organising, that kind of idea. You know, protest songs are tricky ones, aren't they? Because they're often sort of cringe fests, especially when they're too literal. Yeah. I've always been into the idea of disguising things if there is a meaning there, just because it becomes really clunky and
the shelf life is pretty short too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think the idea of the classic song is quite a big one for me. Something that's sort of undeniable, almost. Yeah. You know, in the way that Motown was, where it just takes your head off, and it's just like, but the melody is just so fucking watertight and so killer that you can't deny it. Almost. That's kind of what I'm going for a little bit as well.
I mean, you've got a song like "War" by Edwin Starr, which is political and very much of its time, but it's, I mean, obviously war is something that we're going to have to grapple with for as long as we're humans on Earth. You can sort of address some of these concerns, but make it a little more timeless.
Yeah, but if the song's fucking kick-ass, it's kick-ass, you know what I mean? It's, it will be now and it will be 20 years' time. Like, I'm pulled in a million different directions, that's the thing.
Yeah.
My background is kind of noise music, you know, Sonic Youth and MBV and, you know, shellac and things like that. So I'm kind of not a dance kid, which people might assume. People might assume I'm kind of like the Avalanches or something like that. But I'm particularly live. I'm more into the idea of a kind of an onslaught, you know, rather than it being, you know, really punchy and stuff. I think I'm more into the idea of noise and stuff like that. So it's always in there somewhere. It's always taking the edge off things for me.
By Bloody Valentine and Sonic Youth especially, you're talking about bands that are really good about having a melody but just sort of hiding it somewhere. I mean, obviously you have to engage with it and you have to dig in order to get there, but it's there in all the songs.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's kind of stealth, isn't it? Particularly MBV, I always thought of them as a pop group, really.
Yeah.
I mean, the melodies were just so delightful that you couldn't really, you know, you can just cover it in as much noise as you want.
It's almost like, let's take something beautiful and kind of fuck it up.
Yeah, I kind of thought of it as like a British kind of idea in a way, you know, Jesus and Mary Chain, and it's kind of like almost the idea of making, keeping the grown-ups out in a way, you know, or putting a wall around it saying no squares here. You
don't want to make it too accessible for people.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, you know, it's that bubblegum noise thing again. That's it. That's the way it always will be for me, maybe.
But it sounds like it starts the same way for you, that it starts with a melody and kind of grows from there.
Yeah, melody is where it's at for me, and it's the thing that people rarely talk about with the Go team almost as well. It's always a shopping list almost, when with the Go team it's double Dutch, it's blah blah blah, it's cop chases and stuff like that. And the melody never gets spoken about really. I think that's my main concern really, is hooks, and I kind of think of myself in the hook business, and finding them is so rare and elusive. I kind of love that the chase of it as well, that they're so, you know, I could literally listen back to my phone and there'd be one thing amongst 100 ideas, and I'd go, yeah, that's cool, that bit there. You know, so they are so rare, and I love the way that no one's really sort of cracked it. It's still as elusive to, you know, Paul McCartney as it is for me. You know, no one's ever nailed it. It's still, the idea of catchiness is still this kind of really vague concept that no one's ever really cracked, you know. So I kind of like that idea of it, that it's just almost like mining.
Is it clear the minute that you sing it into your phone that it's something worth keeping?
Often I'll forget about it.
Do you know when you do it that this is a particularly good one?
I think so. I'm after. It's a really funny one to think to explain. I like sort of curviness. I like kind of weird, complicated melodies that some work. You know, you know, they sort of double back in themselves.
Yeah.
So I kind of wind up singing little things like that.
All the really simple ones are probably taken at this point.
Yeah, you have to kind of really, That's how I spend my days, is dreaming up those sort of little things.
Obviously, you've got a family, and is it the kind of thing that comes to you best when you are focused on other things?
Oh yeah, I don't really.
If I sat you down in a room and made you write 5 melodies,
it'd be shocking. Yeah. Sometimes listening to records is a good one for me, and it almost sort of limbers up your brain. So by the end of the day, you're sort of pouring out these little ideas.
You have to worry that you're not cribbing things, though, if you're doing it that way.
Well, no, I never do. I always sort of stop things before they resolve themselves. So I kind of do my version of things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's sort of that writing exercise if somebody gives you the first 2 words and you have to.
Yeah, exactly. I think someone will start a line and I'll resolve it in a different way that I think's nicer or something. So it's like negative space. It's something to work against. So that's why I do it. Listen to thousands of things, you know, from Bollywood soundtracks and, you know, old psyche things, whatever. So it's a good kick-off for me. And then at the same time, I'll hoard these little drum breaks or whatever, and sometimes I'll even arrange things by chords, you know, except I don't even know the names, so I'll just call it 1, 2, 3, 4, minor and break beats and all sorts of stuff.
That's really the most time-intensive part of the process, is pulling all of those together. Once you have a certain number in place, you sit down and then really start writing in earnest.
Yeah, it's such a blur, to be honest. I don't quite know how it happens, but I will definitely start from one killer idea and grow outwards. So the songwriting's where it's at for me, and then once you've kind of got a verse and a chorus locked down, then you can really, almost like the fun starts there, because you can find these other little ideas that could go into it.
Sounds like all the hard work is done at that point.
Kind of, yeah. And then, then it's about arrangement, and that's kind of gets interesting as well, because I'm obsessed with the different directions songs can go as well. Is it going to be a sort of electro-y drum thing? Are you going to put steel drums on it? Is it going to be a big marching thing? Is it a choir? Is it, a French accent? So I'm kind of torn all the time. So I'm kind of pleased that, the Go team isn't sort of locked down to having a singer that we always use, even though Ninja's so amazing. So the albums have lots of guest folk, different accents and scale. So one song could be massive, one could be a little cute sort of Mo Tuckery thing or whatever. Yeah. The possibility is just, we're not locked down to like seeing being REM, where you have a bass, a guitar, Michael Stipe, you do anything.
It's as simple though as I want a French accent on this. Let me go find a French person to sing it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I'm a great believer in making things happen. So that's why I went to Detroit and worked with the teenage choir, because I like forcing things. I like the idea of worlds colliding, clashing. Because there's no way that those teenagers would have thought about working with me, or it wouldn't have even under normal circumstances. There's no way these teenagers from Detroit would have crossed paths with me, if I didn't sort of make it happen. But I've got something that they haven't got, and they've got something I haven't got. So there's some. That's what I'm into. I'm into forcing things, and because I think in 2018, I think you kind of have to force things like that. Otherwise, you'll just wind up with another bass, drums and guitar song, you know what I mean? Things get interesting when you make it happen and you go out of your world and things like that. So I think indie music's maybe going to go in that direction more, where people are going to step out of their own little world, and the mix between sort of black and white music will kind of get blurred and stuff like that, and indie will get more R&B-ish or whatever, or vice versa. And I think even in R&B at the moment it's getting weirder, isn't it? So I think that's
Janelle Monáe.
That's where things are getting interesting, where genres really start freaking with it,
I mean, you have to be really ambitious to make it happen. And you were able to do it right out of the gate with that first record. How close was that to the idea of the band that you had in your mind?
I mean, I did every song by song, but collectively they became this sort of Technicolor manifesto or something, you know what I mean? I don't know. They did naturally happen one by one.
The full vision wasn't really there until all the pieces were in place.
I think sort of subconsciously, I knew I liked kind of gang vocals, so I figured, because I didn't really have access to like a double Dutch team or something, I would hunt down VHSs of shitty B movies about cheerleaders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I knew I liked trumpets. I knew I liked sort of Bollywood strings. And I knew I liked distorted, roomy kind of drums and stuff like that. So it kind of was a checklist of things I was into, but it didn't feel forced. I was trying to make them naturally work as songs, I guess that's always been the case, Pleased that even today I think Thunder Lightning Strike still sort of stands up as I don't think it's dated particularly badly. I still think the idea of this kind of channel hoppy, kind of almost sellotaping these different genres together still feels kind of modern in a strange kind of a way. I'm pretty pleased with it, really. I don't think it's sort of jars, particularly with 2018. In fact, maybe bands are becoming more like that. I don't know. Superorganism, whatever you want to call it.
I usually get this response when I talk to bands that even the most bandy of bands, it still has to be run like a dictatorship in a sense. I mean, there really does have to be that one person with the clear vision if it's going to work at all.
Yeah, I mean, it is so messy. I guess that's one of the reasons why we're still here, is that, if you're relying on all six of us to collectively write, and one person falls out with another one, you can't practice, and it just gets so messy. So
everyone votes their songs up, and
as amazing as everyone is in the band, I think I mean, they're so much better musicians than I am. You wouldn't believe. If you're coming to the gig, you should check out our bassist and drummer. And oh man, like I say, you definitely need someone with who answers the question, who are we? Is
it hard recruiting people who are much better players than you are to make a record with you?
I mean, that's my thing. I mean, I could sort of practice guitar and actually try and learn how to play, but my approach is that if you've got the song locked down and it's kind of a watertight song, you can find the right guitarist for it eventually.
Do you think there's an advantage in not necessarily being able to play all the parts?
No, I'd like to be better. I mean, I'd like to be able to do picky stuff, and that's where the whole sort of team idea comes in, that everyone brings their own thing to it. You know what I mean? So I'm really into that idea that you can do something I can't do. So we're a genuine team, we're a genuine band, but I write the music.
Did the team part of it kind of dissolve on the last record, though?
Yeah, I mean, the process hasn't been massively different. Most of the time I'm there hoarding these lot of ideas and stuff. But so whereas I would have played lots of the instruments on the last time, I would make that phone call and get everyone to do their thing on it. So just making it happen as best I can,
It must be a different experience from that standpoint, at least. I mean, and clearly there's something in the idea of the band if it was something that you wanted to return to on the last record. Got the band back together.
Yeah, I mean, the lineup is different from when we first started, so there's 3 new people in it as well. Like Simone's an amazing drummer, and Ninja is... I don't think I'd be lying if I said she was, one of the best front women in the biz, what I mean? She's ridiculous, So, yeah, I still think we're an unusual little band,
Obviously, it's a testament to all of their abilities if you feel like you do have access to innumerable amount of people when it comes to putting this record together, and you keep really kind of gravitating toward the same people. There must be something there.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I'm into the idea of the team, and if you've got good people around you, then there's no reason to change it, really. I never thought of us as a collective, which some people describe us as. It's just a revolving, just a lineup that has just evolved over the years, really, But I think we're kind of potentially better than we've ever been, though, and we use live trumpets with us, on stage now. What we did in the UK leg, anyway, we couldn't really afford it on the American tour, but so that's a new thing for us, is using live horns and that kind of the attack that you get from that side of things as well.
I mean, obviously you're a fan of mixing things up in general when it comes to making the music itself, but the key is having that same skeletal structure in place and then essentially building on top of that.
Yeah, I never really factor in the live thing, actually. When I'm writing, I'm just purely thinking about the song, but I know that somehow we'll be able to do it because they're so good as musicians that we'll make it happen somehow, whether we have to use an MPC to trigger samples or whatever. But if I had to faithfully reproduce everything we did, it would just get ridiculous. I'd need probably a 6-piece horn section.
You would be the polyphonic spree.
Yeah, which we'd need a gang of girls on stage. It'd be all sorts. So we kind of do what we can, really.
The show ends tonight, and you just go home and go back to being a family man for the time being, and the songs just. You slowly start collecting them?
So I've always got a backlog of ideas that I think will find a home one day. So it's kind of about working through that. And where the Go Team goes next, I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
There you go, that was Ian Parton of the Go Team, recorded that one at La Poisson Rouge in Manhattan. Thanks so much to him for taking the time to do that. You can check out their wonderful new record, Semicircle, that is out now on Memphis Industries. Thanks to Hector for helping set up that conversation. Thanks to you guys, as always, for listening to the show. If you do like the program, there are a number of ways to support us. Please rate and review us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or wherever you happen to get the show. Like us on Facebook. If you've got any feedback, it's riwellcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Tumblr. That's riwellcast.tumblr.com, and that's about it for this week, so stick around because we'll be back just about this time next week with another episode of RIYL.